Louisiana versus all y'all, Jarrett Roser with a couple of quick takeaways from the Ragin Cajuns' 40-10 season opening defeat of Grambling State on Saturday night at Cajun Field. And we'll start with the offense, and we'll start early with a quick stop of Grambling State, and then immediately in Ben Wooldridge's return from that injury early last season, 50 yards downfield to Harvey Broussard, the former St. Martinville star. And after the game, Coach Dez said essentially he was trying to send a message to his team that this year was going to be different in terms of the attacking mentality and the way that they really went after teams. And I think the Cajuns players certainly recognize that. Whether or not they got the message, I think I certainly did. My biggest takeaway from the night was that, the early attack and just the expectations that I do think this offense has a chance to be pretty good. Wooldridge in his return ends up 25 for 33 for 308 yards and 3 touchdowns and an interception. That's 76% of his passes complete despite 3 or 4 different drops. The interception itself off of kind of a ricocheting ball that, hit a receiver in the arm or chest and then ricocheted off for the interception. So nice to see Ben back out there and doing his thing, playing confidently and getting the ball not only out to his receivers, but pushing the ball downfield compared to these last couple of years, which again, Grambling State is an FCS opponent to start. So it is what it is as a measuring stick. You're going to have to play some tougher competition, and that starts right now heading to Kennesaw State and then coming back home to host Tulane and then right back on the road to go face Wake Forest. But the last couple of years also opening against FCS opponents in Southeastern Louisiana and Northwestern State, the deep shot and the commitment to getting the ball 10, 20, 30 yards downfield was noticeably different. Just looking back to last year's season opener where I covered that Cajuns and Demons games, the first quarter alone, 8 rushes for the Cajuns, 2 for 4 passing for 11 yards, just a couple of quick passes, 5 yards and 6 yards early on. And so obviously much different start and overall performance. And then a couple of years ago, a little bit more success in terms of efficiency in the passing game against the Lions with Chandler Fields at the helm of that 2022 offense early on. They completed 6 of 9 passes, but it was 6 of 9, mostly little quick hit, 5 yards here, 6 yards there. They did have a 28-yarder that had some yak to it, but still 12 runs, 6 for 9 passing, and a lot more short to maybe intermediate that you're getting into, whereas they were really trying to test the Tigers and send a message early on Saturday night to open this 2024 season. So that's encouraging. And on the flip side of the excitement to see Ben Wooldridge back out there doing his thing, seeing Harvey Broussard looking like he may be poised to take that next step as much as he's shown flashes in college. You look at a guy that was an all-state receiver right down the road at St. Martinville, but a guy that really is still just scratching the surface of his potential. A guy that when I first started talking to more and covering, I think the end of his sophomore year at St. Martinville, he was still very much thinking about basketball, playing both sports and track. He's a multi-sport guy, but watching him now get to this point, be really football focused and continue to not only develop his body in the college strength program, but his technical side of his game, his route running and all those things, and become a more polished receiver. Really encouraging to see that. I know, on the flip side, there was a question after the game of, did the offense have trouble running the ball or moving the ball as effectively running against Grambling State as they would have liked to, and Coach Dez pointed to the size that Grambling State does have in the trenches and their commitment to bringing numbers up in the box and kind of making Wooldridge throw the ball over the course of the night. But still, at the end of the day, you end up with Draylon Washington, Elijah Bill Davis, and Zylan Perry all over 5 yards a carry. And so even though the team average ends up down closer to 4, those primary ball carries for the bulk of the game, I thought solid, all things considered, when you're looking at this as a starting point and expectations that this offensive line, still competing throughout camp, is going to continue to gel together and do that much better, theoretically building upon this and moving on into the season with some capable athletes behind them. On the other side of the ball, I think similarly, the biggest takeaway is not getting a whole lot of pressure on Grambling State quarterback Miles Crawley. I think Grambling State did a nice job up front, but still against an FCS opponent, you'd want to see the Cajuns get after Crawley a little bit more, be able to create a little bit more pressure. Looking over at the defensive side of the stat sheet, there was one quarterback hurry, two tackles, or I'm sorry, on the wrong side. There were four tackles for loss, four hurries, zero sacks, and so you'd like to be able to get home and really kind of set the tone on that side of the ball. They did have some nice plays along the way. I thought Caleb Anderson played really well. Caleb Cabody obviously had the huge pick six. He just had a pressure or a hurry that play before. And so those were a couple of standouts, particularly among some Louisiana natives. Tyrone Lewis ends up with 7 tackles, Casey Osai with 7 tackles. And so a couple of nice performances, but still just the starting point for a defensive unit that they'll want to see be able to improve as the season goes on, particularly with creating some more pressure. Again, this was a season opener against Grambling State. So you get out of there with a handy 30-point victory, and happy with that to some degree, but know that the degree of difficulty ramps up right away here in week 2. And so I want to clean up some things like those aforementioned drops and a couple of miscues here and there. Coach Des mentioning the pad level for the offensive line and trying to help set the table a little bit better for that running game. But, had some moments in terms of some coverage dynamics on special teams and letting Grambling get some nice slice plays, some big plays, slicing through the defense a little bit at times and some timely moments. You want to clean some of that up moving forward, but I think all in all, a positive start. I know the Cajuns were really encouraged with it, talking to Dez and Wooldridge and Harvey Broussard and Caleb Cabody after the game. And so just, see what now the improvement level is from week 1 to week 2, because that week 1 to week 2 and week 2 to week 3, coaches always talk about how significant of a leap that needs to be after getting a chance to get out there, test yourself against another opponent after getting so used to beating up on yourselves for the last month, certainly, and really the bulk of the calendar year thus far, and kind of take what you can learn from that first one and build on it going into the next one. Again, that next one is a road trip to Kennesaw State. They come back home to host Tulane. My plan is to be at that one in a couple of weeks. Until then, make sure you keep up with, Cajuns, Green Wave, and everything else going on around Louisiana with Louisiana versus all y'all. Appreciate y'all, as always, for tuning in, taking a second to check out the channel. If you don't mind, take a second and hit that subscribe button. Again, I'm Jarrett Roser. This is Louisiana versus all y'all. Y'all have a great rest of the holiday weekend.